You want me to put that on my todger?
Harry's Wife, part 73.7. It cannot always be hidden. Lesser narcissists don't operate with a facade. Mid-rangers do. Greaters and the ultra do also. Greaters and the ultra are especially accomplished at keeping that in place, and it'd be highly unusual to see that slip. You may, of course, occasionally see a frenzied response from a greater or the ultra, but it is not something that would be obtained for general consumption. It would occur behind closed doors, vis-a-vis one or two persons. Generally, the facade remains intact and doesn't slip. Mid-rangers have a harder time of keeping those facades in place. Low and mid-rangers operate an intermittent facade, meaning that it's on and off, on and off, on and off, and many people who are secondary sources, those individuals are usually the individuals who are subjected to the facade the most, find themselves seeing aspects of the behaviour by the narcissist that shows the malign side. So there will be family members who will have seen from time to time the son or the brother or the father or whoever it may be, the sister, lashing out. There'll be friends who will say once in a while he or she can be somewhat unpleasant. They've got a bit of an edge to them. They've got a bit of a temper. There will also be instances where neighbours and colleagues will see this also. The lower mid-ranger isn't able to keep that facade intact all of the time, or even most of the time. Middle mid-rangers and upper mid-ranger are better at doing that, and although the facade can crack, and can do so quite spectacularly, more usually you see occasional fractures of it, which are quickly dealt with by the narcissism, the little glimpses of what's going on underneath. And as part of this series, to help you understand more about the behaviours of Harry's wife, and also about narcissism more generally, I have analysed footage and photographs to explain to you what's going on where the facade isn't in place. Now I'm going to turn to a series of photographs which provide you more insight into what's actually going on with Harry's wife. Our first photograph shows Harry's wife at some kind of event as she's sat in a crowd. And here we see the emptiness within. The eyes vacant. There is nothing there. There's nothing going on. Some people would refer to this perhaps as a resting bitch face. Instead, this is where the narcissist is sat with nothing going on, and the emptiness within is all plain to see. Since it's a photograph, it's difficult to ascertain whether this was the situation for several seconds or just fleetingly. I suspect it would have been just fleetingly, but it provides you with an excellent opportunity to glimpse and see the emptiness that lurks beneath. The eyes, devoid of any emotion, the mouth, straight, almost waxwork-like in presentation. And that is because there simply isn't anything there. And we know that, and we have seen that on repeated occasions as a consequence of the fact that there have been vapid, meaningless, empty comments and gestures that come from Harry's wife. There's no substance at all to back up the way that she is. And this photograph of itself demonstrates the reality of the emptiness that occurs, that is present, and that is only masked by the narcissism through the imitation game. Listen to the video of the same name to understand more, and of course the fueling of the narcissist to allow the narcissist construct to function in that way. Here you're seeing the emptiness within. Probably only for a glimpse, only for an instant. It's there fleetingly, but it is an excellent example of it. Our next photograph goes in a completely different direction, and here we see an individual sizing up their prey. Once again, note the rictus grin, fixed, toothy, almost like some kind of predatory dinosaur weighing up lunch. And then the eyes, that crazed look, almost of a manic delight at what's occurring. This looks like it was taken at Wimbledon, and of course you'll recall that from an earlier part of this series about Harry's wife, There was the glare, the death stare that came from Harry's wife as she bored her eyes into the back of the Duchess of Cambridge's skull. Now, it would appear that the Duchess of Cambridge has moved on to locate her seat as she's slightly forward of Harry's wife and to the side, and that Harry's wife is bringing up the rear. And what we're no doubt seeing now is the provision of fuel as a consequence of some kind of recognition, combined with the fact that there is undoubtedly thought fuel going on. Earlier, wounded by the fact that she was playing second fiddle to the Duchess of Cambridge, the hatred appeared, the death stare made its presence felt as she bored her eyes, that gaze into the back of Catherine's head. Now, her narcissism has provided her with a tasty morsel of thought fuel, although ephemeral and short-lived in nature, and I suspect that there's some kind of recognition by an individual, and instead what we now get is the response thereafter as she feels unconsciously that control has been obtained. The rictus grin makes its appearance. There's no genuine warmth there, of course, because it comes not from a position of emotional empathy, and there's always the manic glee that's exhibited in her eyes. Again, no emotional empathy, and it's the receipt of fuel that is demonstrated. She looks like she's about to suddenly lean forward and take a great big bite out of Catherine, no doubt emboldened by the sensation of now, unconsciously, having that control and the receipt of the all-important fuel. With our next photograph, of course, normal service is resumed with regard to Harry's wife's nemesis. The picture shows, with some interesting grids, don't ask me why that's there, at a particular event, and we see Prince William alongside his wife, smiling away, and who's that lurking in the background like the ghost at the feast? Ha! It's Harry's wife. And there is the stare. That sideways glance directed at Catherine. The hatred manifesting as the narcissism causes her, Harry's wife, to experience that sensation of envy. William was the prize, because he would be king. And in the world of Harry's wife, she ought to have got him. She ought to have been numero uno. But instead, she didn't get there. Kate did. And in that moment, as she sees the two of them there, and she can see, obviously, Catherine's contentment at the occasion through her genuine and emotionally empathic smile, that wounds Harry's wife. That results in her having her fury ignited. It creates a sensation of envy, and no doubt poisonous thoughts are pouring through the mind of Harry's wife in that moment. This is done to enable to assert control. Again, she can't assert control directly by suddenly running forward and grabbing hold of Prince William and giving it some tongs, or wandering over and slapping Catherine in some Duchess on Duchess smackdown knock v empath action. No, that can't happen. Indirect assertion of control is denied to her as well, because she can't turn and basically make a sniping or unpleasant comment about the two of them, particularly as with regard to her nemesis, and therefore once again her narcissism is forced into the third assertion of control, causing her to stay in a position of withdrawal as she thinks poisonous thoughts, enabling her, in her own world, to feel that she's superior, and thus unconsciously feel that she, once again, has the control. In our next photograph, which appears to be taken at the same event, and moments afterwards, we see a shift in the look of the narcissist. In the previous example, it was the death stare, hatred emanating towards the nemesis that is the Duchess of Cambridge. But now the focus is on Prince William, and notice how the countenance of the Duchess of Sussex has altered. Gone is the hatred, instead admiration, making eyes, the prize that I should have. At this moment, again, she has to assert control over the individuals that are on her radar. And when the Duchess of Cambridge appeared on the radar, the assertion of control had to go to the third assertion of control, and did so by malign thoughts. Here, the assertion of control has to occur again. The Duke of Cambridge is on the radar, and he's painted white. Ooh, sexy Billy Bob over there. Wills, he's going to be king. He really fancies me, you know. And believe this, like many narcissists, particularly of a somatic or elite nature, Harry's wife will truly believe that William has the hots for her. He will have never done anything to confirm that. He will have just been polite and pleasant towards her. But she, in her mind, driven by her narcissism, driven by her own delusion, believes that he wants to hump the fuck out of her, that she is irresistible to him, and it's only a matter of time before he comes running and gagging for a bit of Duchess action of the Sussex side, rather from the Cambridge. That thought, or similar, is what's going on in her head right then, at the time this photograph is taken. Because Prince William is viewed as white, but he still has to have control asserted over him. She can't go and engage with him, and therefore the first assertion of control is denied. The second assertion of control could be by way of triangulation. So she could perhaps turn and remark to someone and go, "Isn't he handsome? Isn't he debonair? Doesn't he carry himself so well?" And the person would agree, and therefore that would allow the continuation of the sense of control. However, there isn't the opportunity to speak to anybody about that. And instead, once again, the maintenance of control has to occur through withdrawal. She stays in a position of withdrawal, but her narcissism, because Prince William is viewed as white, thinks good thoughts about him, quite simply. It might be thoughts about, if he and I were together, we could change so much in this world much more effectively, far better than this idiot that I've been saddled with. Or, he belongs to me, how shall I make it so? He's so dishy, he's so wonderful. Now remember, because we only see through a lens of white and black, when you're painted white, you're absolutely amazing. You're handsome, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're clever, you're fun, you're sensational. You've been sent from heaven above. You are our soulmate. We have this connection with you. Everything is glorious about you. Everything is painted white with that gold light around it. When you're painted black, you're ugly, awful, despicable, unpleasant, always late, never listening to us, never do what we want, always picking on us, always nagging, cheating on us, flirting elsewhere, etc., etc. It is a complete polarized situation. You're either amazing or we hate you. There's no in between. There are no shades of grey. And here we have an excellent example of where an individual who is painted white is being regarded in that manner for the third assertion of control. And it also shows the compartmentalization that goes on. With our earlier photograph, it's the hatred look that's being shot because the Duchess of Cambridge is painted black. And then, in an instant, looking at Will's, he comes up on the radar and he's painted white, and it's all hubba hubba instead. A fantastic example provided by those two photographs. Moving on to our final photograph, we're back at the balcony at Buckingham Palace, and we see the Duchess of Cambridge stood to the right, looking resplendent as always, very neatly put together, and looking up into the sky. No doubt an RAF flyby is taking place, and she's no doubt thinking, that's impressive. Prince William's also looking up to the sky, wearing his RAF uniform, and doubtless also thinking, check that out, something to talk about later on. Then we move across to Harry. Harry is probably trying to do some mental arithmetic and looks stumped, or, alternatively, he's trying to work out why his wife has just upbraided him in the way that she has. He isn't looking at the RAF flyby, and there's a look of consternation and puzzlement on his face. Now, of course, for the somewhat cerebrally challenged Harry, that's something that could occur on a daily basis. But here, he's perplexed. His brow is furrowed, his mouth is straight, his eyes are narrowed. Something has displeased the Ginger Prince. Who could it be? Well, let's move across once again, and look who it is. She has just upbraided him. She's devalued him in that moment, causing him to look concerned, perplexed, and she has that smirk of satisfaction upon her face. She has received fuel. She has asserted control, although of course she doesn't know that is what has happened. And her narcissism, unable to maintain the facade, allows us a quick glimpse of the cat that got the cream, the cat that's just chewed the canary. Once again, the eyes beady, fixed upon Prince Harry, watching his response, drinking in that fuel. It's proximate fuel. He isn't saying anything, but his body language, his facial appearance, his facial expression, and the look in his eyes all provides her with significant amounts of fuel coming from a particularly potent force, which of course is her intimate partner, primary source. And because it's negative fuel, it's stronger than positive fuel. The receipt of this fuel makes her feel powered. And as I mentioned in an earlier section of part 73.7, or rather earlier part of the part 73, where her fuel level dropped, we saw the anxiety coming to the fore. Here, there is no anxiety. She's well fueled. She's received a substantial amount of, and is receiving a substantial amount of fuel from Prince Harry, and therefore feeling empowered, feeling bolstered. It shows as this arrogant smirk of satisfaction, the smug look upon her face. She's drinking it in, thinking, I've got you, pal, just where I need you. Again, she doesn't realise that she needs to do this for control. She doesn't realise that she's receiving fuel, but that's what is going on in the unconscious. So there you have it. A further excellent examination of a series of different photographs conveying all manner of different aspects of the narcissistic dynamic and responses. Utilise this information to further your own understanding. Remember, as I pointed out previously, one photograph alone cannot be relied upon. It's merely indicative rather than determinative. But where we have a range of photographs by an established narcissist, we're able to interpret what's going on in each of those photographs through the lens of narcissism. Do ensure you share this video. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe. I'm most displeased if you haven't. And keep liking the videos. Ensure that the bastards at YouTube listen to the needs of all of you, and that these videos gain greater prominence. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.